You ready for the jury? Sure, sure, yes, ma'am. All right, we ready for the jury then? Yes. Okay. All right, thank you. You can be seated. Your next question.
Mr. Depp, before the break, we were talking about how your finger got injured in Australia. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to pull up Defendant's Exhibit 394, please. Mr. Depp, do you recall Mr. Rottenborn showing you this exhibit during your cross-examination?
Yes, I do.
And can you please explain when, relative to your finger injury, you sent this text message?
That's the day before. Am I correct?
At the bottom it says, I cut the top of my finger off. What should I do? Except, of course, go to a hospital.
Australia, exactly. The time difference, sorry. Yes. That's what I said.
And so when, relative to when your finger was injured, did you send this text message, to your best recollection?
This looks like it's at the time to me.
And in the middle here it says, her obsession with herself is far more important. She's so fucking ambitious. She's so desperate for success and fame. That's probably why I was a choir mate. What did you mean by that?
Unfortunately, I meant exactly what I said in this text. It seems it had become clear that there were she seemed to take more care and importance in going on auditions, going to the Met Ball or going to any sort of premiere or opening or whatever, where she could be
Objection beyond the
photographed.
scope of the question, Your Honor.
Sorry?
I believe he was responding to what he meant by what he wrote in his text
And
message
then
to
he said
Dr.
I meant exactly what the word said, and now he's going beyond
All
the
right,
scope.
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Thank you, Mr. Rottenborn.
Your
Sir,
Honor,
if you could just answer the question, Mr. Depp, please.
Certainly,
Direct your
sorry.
attention just to your attorney, okay?
Sorry, Your Honor.
Mr. Depp, last week, Mr. Rottenborn showed you an audio recording where you referenced your finger getting cut off in Australia. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to play a different portion of that recording that came before the portion that Mr. Rottenborn played. So if we could please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 343, and we will be playing the portion from at 1 hour, 54 minutes, 11 seconds to 1 hour, 56 minutes, 10 seconds.
It's early, it's quick, it's so not, you're not interested in not fighting. You are guaranteeing a fight. When you do that, and I've told you this so many times, you guarantee, if you were interested in not fighting, you would be respectful if you needed the space you would be careful not to perpetuate the fight longer by saying, I need a few minutes, and then actually honoring that. How can I trust you that it will be a few minutes when you've done this in the past and disappeared for hours? You know, I got mad at you in Australia about this. I said, baby, I want to trust you. It's hard for me not to try and work it out. If you want to be the person that's like, I need to cool down, help me do that, give that to you. But I can't give it to you if you always let me down and fuck up and forget.
Because I gave you a time limit, because I said I'll be back in 3 minutes. So I'm just...
No, it's
if that
different.
If it happens...
It's different. You never...
If it happens, I'm just going to say, look, I need some time. That's it.
I'm telling you, that will make it worse.
No.
I guarantee you it will.
If you're stuck in throwing punches...
I'm not talking about throwing punches. I'm talking about an argument.
Right. In arguments, you tend to throw punches.
I'm talking about arguments. I'm not talking about the times when it's got physical. I'm talking about arguments. I'm talking about arguments. I'm talking about arguments.
Yes,
Talking
in our
about
argument...
fights. Earlier and earlier and earlier. Now you split. You take off right away. You don't deal with the issue. You don't deal with the confrontation, and you split. Whether it is, and then you do it for an undeterminate amount of time. You do it without actually respecting. When you do give me a time, like say I need a few minutes, you never.
Mr. Depp, whose voices can you hear in that audio recording?
Ms. Hertz and myself.
And there was a mention about Ms. Heard getting mad about something in Australia. What did Ms. Heard get mad at you about in Australia?
There were many instances where Ms. Heard would get upset, angry, and argumentative and violent in Australia. There were many times. The one that was the day when my tip of my finger disappeared, that had to do with a phone call. When she arrived in Australia, she complained that an attorney who was explaining to her
Objection, Your Honor, is hearsay as to what he alleges her attorney was explaining to her. That's clearly
We
hearsay.
can move on, Your
Okay,
Honor.
yes, ma'am.
In the context of this audio recording that we just heard, what to your understanding is Ms. Heard referencing when she says you split?
I would excuse myself from the situation. I would try to get away so that nothing escalated. Because if given the chance to allow things to escalate, Ms. Heard would take it to the very extreme. But she ended up with my finger being chopped off. So I rather thought it was the best idea to avoid things like that.
Mr. Depp, I'd like to show you what's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit 272. I believe this is another document that you saw during your cross-examination. Do you recognize these text messages?
Yes,
And these were after your detox on the island, is that right?
that's correct.
Now, where it says here, this was the right thing to do to speed up the process, what are you referring to there?
When we were on the island and I was going through the process of detoxing from the opiates, which was a very unpleasant and powerful, painful process. It wasn't working with Miss Heard there. I could not properly detox, as every day was another problem or this or that. So I asked we leave the island and go back to Los Angeles, and I asked Ms. Heard if she would please allow me to get a bungalow at the Beverly Hills Hotel where she and her friends could go for, I needed 5 days, 6 days, 7 days, anything I could get where I could finish the detox by myself without any unnecessary interruptions or unpleasant interruptions. To which she replied that she was felt like I was throwing her out and abandoning her, and after all she had done for me. When the fact is, though, no matter what I wrote to her mother and to her, I needed the time, because I would have gone straight back to the pills. I would have not been able to detox properly without that time alone. And she reluctantly gave me the time. And I sent her and her friends to Beverly Hills Hotel and in a bungalow, and went through the detox by myself in Penthouse 3 for the next 5 or 6 days.
Mr. Depp, last week Mr. Rottenborn showed you a video that was taken of yourself where you're slamming some cabinets. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do.
First of all, where are you in that video?
That's the kitchen at a house that I've on Sweetser that I've lived in since mid-90s.
And do you recall what you were upset about in that video?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
I don't recall, as I don't know the date of, there's no metadata that I am aware of for that tape. Also, apparently looking for any metadata is impossible, as it is
Your
now
Honor,
owned
beyond the
by...
scope of the
I'll
question.
sustain the objection. You want to ask the question
Mr.
again?
Depp, what do you remember, what, if anything, do you remember being upset about that resulted in what was seen in that video?
I can't recall if it was bad news about my mother's health. I can't recall if it was something to do with my former business managers, finding out that they'd taken me for a very nasty ride. I don't recall exactly what it was about. What I do know is that it didn't have anything to do with her.
Objection beyond the scope of the question.
Overruled, I'll allow it. It's fine.
There was nothing between us before she entered that room. It was me alone.
Okay. Do you know where Miss Heard was before she entered the room?
I assume that she was up in the, she'd gotten out of bed and gotten dressed and come downstairs.
Mr. Depp, earlier today, Mr. Rottenborn played a recording where you can hear Miss Heard seeming to claim that you put a cigarette out on her. Do you remember that?
I remember hearing that, yes.
I'd like to play you another recording, which is Plaintiff's Exhibit 365.
Okay.
And this is, for the record, an 11-second recording, so we'll be putting in the entire.
All right. Any objection to 365?
No, Your Honor.
All right, 365 in evidence.
Couch. 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 You give me one couch. I gave you 3 other couches. 2 couches. What do you want?
You
Please.
don't pay attention to it.
Please, give me couch.
What do you want?
Couch.
Couch, what? What do you want?
I want couch.
We don't have to shake hands.
I want couch.
Couch.
Agree, please, though. You said you agreed
Couch,
before we
agreed.
started talking. I want to stop fighting.
Have I been fighting?
Yes.
Your Honor, she said this was
Everything
11
you said has
seconds.
been nasty and provoking and mean-spirited.
Not you.
And meant. No, I'm not saying
it's
that.
45.
You asked.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I think I misspoke. I may have been 45. I may have misremembered.
She
It's
said
it's
it
a.
was 11 seconds long, and that went way longer.
I apologize. I misremembered.
All right, it's in evidence.
It may help if could we ask them to move the media player so we can see it too? Because we just have a blank screen, so.
Okay, it's
Well,
45
that's just
seconds.
probably because we didn't publish it. There you go. Okay. Okay.
Can we play that? Thank you.
Couch. 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 You give me one couch. I gave you 3 other couches. 2 couches. What do you want?
You
Please.
don't pay attention to it.
Please, give me couch.
What do you want?
Couch.
Couch, what? What do you want?
I want couch.
We don't have to shake hands.
I want couch.
Couch.
Agree, please, though. You said you agreed
Couch,
before we
agreed.
started talking. I want to stop fighting.
Have I been fighting?
Yes. Everything you've said has been nasty and provoking and mean-spirited.
Not yours.
And meant. No, I'm not saying that. You asked me yours. By the way, you just threw a fucking cigarette on me.
Mr. Depp, do you recognize what's in that recording?
Do I recognize what's in the recording?
Yes.
Seems pretty clear that she's ordering me to the couch. And I didn't want to go through with any, again, avoiding confrontation, trying to avoid confrontation in any way. I can certainly say that without hesitation, there is no way under the sun that I would flick a cigarette at her or burn her with a cigarette. If I flicked ashes and an ash got on her, but she's certainly not screaming out in pain as if a cigarette is being put out on her. That's ludicrous.
Do you recall the situation that's reflected in that audio recording?
I believe that's Montreal. Toronto, which was right after the Venice Film Festival. We were at the Toronto Film Festival.
Mr. Depp, I'd like to ask you about a couple text messages from May 22nd, 2016 that Mr. Rottenborn asked you about earlier.
Yes.
And before I do, could you please remind the jury what was going on between you and Ms. Heard on May 22nd, 2016?
On May 22nd, on May 21st, I hadn't seen her since the 22nd of April, her birthday, which was when I left at 4:30 in the morning. I believe,
Objection, Your Honor. This is cumulative. He's already gone through all of this in his direct examination, and she asked him what was happening on May 22nd, and he's getting into what happened on May 21st. We've already been through this.
I believe that he's providing context for where they
I think
were
we
on the
can- we can
22nd,
go to
but
the 22nd.
if you could, Mr. Depp, please explain where you were on the 22nd of May in 2016.
as far as I can remember, on May 22nd, 2016, I was preparing to leave for New York for rehearsals and then a tour with the Hollywood Vampires. I was either preparing to leave or I had left.
Could we please pull up Defendant's Exhibit 736, please? And do you recall sending this text message to Ms. Heard on May 22nd, 2016 at 6:19 p.m.?
Yes, I do.
What did you mean when you told her nothing I have to say to you should elicit anything but a sense of ease?
It was essentially, for me, I was bringing up what I'd spoken to her about before, which was a peaceful resolution to the problems, a peaceful resolution in terms of a peaceful and private and quiet and calm divorce. And so that's why I say it shouldn't elicit anything but a sense of ease, because it was not about, I didn't want to argue. I didn't want anything but to end the marriage in the kindest way possible for all, her family, my family, her, myself, etc.
And what did you mean when you said all my love and profound apologies?
Profound apologies is that it just didn't work. We just could not work. There was no way. And I had to try to put a peaceful end, a peaceful stop to the endless opportunities for these constant arguments. If I didn't put a stop to it, then, I mean, if I didn't try to put a peaceful stop to it, a peaceful end to it, then if you don't stop it yourself, it'll stop you. It'll stop you, and you don't know what that could be, but it was horrific, and I wanted her out, of it, and I wanted out of it. No one deserves to live like that. No one deserves to live like that. Not her, not me, not anyone. So I just wanted a smooth exit for both of us. That's all I was looking for.
Mr. Depp, last week, Mr. Rottenborn played a clip from an audio recording where Miss Heard told you that you vomit in your sleep a lot. Do you remember that recording?
Yes, I do.
And what's your response to that?
When someone tells you that you vomit, she didn't tell me. I heard it in court. When someone brings up the fact that you vomit in your sleep every night, and, well, first I think you'd be aware of it. And also, I think the first thing that I would do is seek medical attention. It didn't exist. I'd never vomited in my sleep every night. There were times when I would get, yes, physically ill from the endless shots that you take when you're just you're unable to take it anymore, and it does affect you physically after a while. So I would have to leave and go and vomit when fights got into these surreal and absurd and horrible places. But it still confounds me as to why she would record that. I don't know why anyone would record that.
Mr. Depp, the clip that Mr. Rottenborn played was from Defendant's Exhibit 839, and just for the record, this is a portion of a larger recording which is reflected in Plaintiff's Exhibit 342. So with the court's permission, I'd like to play a clip from Plaintiff's Exhibit 342. And the portion I'd like to play is at 19 minutes, 40 seconds to 25 minutes, 25 seconds.
Right, do we have 342 already in evidence, or?
I don't believe so, Your Honor.
No, so you want to put 342, which is the entire audio in?
Yes, I don't
Evidence.
believe that there's anyone else in this audio recording, Your Honor.
I don't believe, I hear this before. Okay, 342, any objection?
As long as there's no one else in the audio recording, no objection.
We can confirm afterwards, so if Your Honor would, if it's more comfortable, we can put it in as 342A.
Okay, and what was let's put 342A, and what's the part that you're going to?
It's 19 minutes, 40 seconds to
Okay.
25 minutes, 25 seconds.
All right, and there's just the two of them in this excerpt, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, that's 342A in evidence, then, thank you.
I don't care.
Do you understand why 10 minutes downstairs
I don't care.
didn't seem real?
I don't care.
Did you hear what I said?
I don't care. I don't care.
You do.
There's plenty of things you've done, things you've fucking done that were absolute fucking lies.
I didn't
I'm not
ever-
even fuck with you about it. So anyway, don't leave it. So I'll see you in a bit. Yeah?
Is that what matters?
Your lies?
Is this what matters to you, your party?
Your lies, I
I never led you. And what we're talking about tonight is what? Who are you? Why? Why are you doing this?
I'm leaving. I'll be back.
Why?
So I'm leaving.
What is it that is so important always to run away to? Why?
It's a run away, yeah. I run because I'm a cop.
Why don't you stay? You asked me once not to leave, and I'm asking you. So why every 5 seconds do I get? I'm leaving because there's a fucking movie party I gotta go to. I have never prioritized you behind that. And you, of all people, all this talk about not being that guy, you have done nothing but over the last 2 days but tell me that your movie parties were more important, including the night before last. When I said to you the same thing, stay. And today you apologized, said, I love you, I'm so sorry. And then today it takes you 2 seconds. It takes you 20 seconds at most to go, fuck that, I hate you, I don't want to be with you, goodbye, I'm leaving, I'm running away. But I'm not running, I'm walking away.
Well, the one thing is for sure, I don't want to be with you. I don't. I really don't.
Then if you don't want to be with me in life,
Goodbye.
then you need to actually do it. You need to actually take off your ring and forget that 5 hours ago you said the opposite. Otherwise, you can't keep throwing that around. You can't keep saying to me that this is something you care about.
There you go.
Is that what it's worth to you?
Yeah. Yeah. For you, from all this bitching, from all these rules, all these.
Rules? Because I asked you to stay?
Look, because
Because I asked you to stay.
No, because you're fucking.
What was
hard.
it? What was it when you asked me to
Because you're a
stay?
pain in the ass.
What was it when you asked
I
me to
can't
stay?
stand it. No.
What was it when you asked me to stay? In Australia, you said you promised me not to leave. You said you promised me not to leave. What did I do?
I thought you would change.
What did I do?
Not change.
What did I do?
Not change.
Did I stay or did I leave?
You changed.
Did I stay or did I leave?
You stayed and you didn't change and you were a fucking
I stayed.
pain in the ass and you were a cunt.
So I stayed. And I've been a cunt ever since, which is why you told me
Pretty
about every other day how you couldn't imagine your life without me, including today. So,
When
which
you
guy,
crack-
does that seem normal to you?
when you
Does that
crack
seem
your-
normal to you? The guy, you told me tonight
Let
that
me-
you couldn't imagine your life without me, and now you're throwing your ring on the ground. Does that seem normal?
That's how you tell me.
That seems sober? You seem
Give me
normal?
the definition of normal. You.
Does that seem normal?
You.
Does that seem normal to you?
Borderline personality disorder.
I'm borderline personality disorder now.
Without question.
When I've been consistent all night saying, don't go, don't fuck this all up, I'm not fighting with you anymore. I've been saying this to you the whole night. I'm really sorry we disagreed. You're not perfect. I said this 2 hours ago. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect.
I love that you put
But
me
we
first.
don't have to do this every time we disagree.
No. No, we don't. But we do.
Please,
We do.
please, come here.
And you have
Please come
every
here.
insult.
Please come here. I'm not insulting you. I have not been insulting you. I love you. Johnny, what do you need me to do? I love you. Stop.
Smack me on the ear again.
I love you.
I'm gonna smack my ear again. So it fucking resounds in my fucking cranium. You like that?
I love you.
Huh?
I'm sorry. I love you. I love you.
I love you too. No. No. I don't love you that much.
Me too.
No, I don't. I do not love you that much. To give of myself? No. Do not. I will not give of myself. And you want me to fucking be some kind of perched goddamn parrot or a fucking weird frenzied dog? No, I won't be it. No.
Frenzied dog? I'm trying to talk to
Or
them.
your goddamn fucking lover,
Calm down. Calm
Tasia
down.
Fantasia.
Calm
I'm not gonna be that shit, man.
Baby, stop.
No, I don't want to be with you. If these are the fucking
Stop.
rules, fuck that.
Rules. You're making this whole thing. You're doing this whole
Oh,
thing.
no.
No one's fighting you.
I'm making this up.
Really?
That, above all else, is an insult.
Mr. Depp, what are you and Ms. Heard discussing in this recording?
It is another argument that is apparently not an argument to her. The screeching of her voice, the demand that things go her way and only her way. I was done, and I think I stated clearly, I don't want to be with you. I don't want to be with you. I'm not going to be a parrot on a, or some, little dog that runs through hoops for you. I ain't going to do that. And I wanted out. She said, take your ring off. She still wouldn't let me leave. I did, and she still wouldn't let me leave. So it's just another example of kind of being nailed in one spot and not allowed to do anything but react to her screaming and screaming like a banshee, and then telling me to calm down when I had been pretty calm, I thought.
Where were you trying to go, if you can recall?
Anywhere. Away.
And why did you ask Ms. Hurd if she wanted to smack you in the ear again?
She had given me a good chop in the ear, one of those where leaves you ringing, and it was not long before that, and so I thought, maybe this will make you happy. Will it make you happy would you like to hit me in the ear again? Would that make you feel better? Will that make you stop this? Would have done anything to have stopped. Outside of taking anything to some physical level, I disagreed with that wholeheartedly. That's not me. It's not who I've ever been. It's not who I'll ever be.
Mr. Depp, I'm going to play another audio recording. This is a different portion from what Mr. Rottenborn played for you today. It's DX 598. I believe the portion Mr. Rottenborn played was designated 598B, so this will be 598C.
Okay.
And first I'd like to play the portion from 31 minutes, 14 seconds to 33 minutes, 4 seconds.
All right, any objection to 598C?
No, Your Honor.
And then we will go on and play the second portion, which is 56 minutes, 27 seconds to 59 minutes, 54 seconds.
All right, 598C in evidence.
And it builds, right? Like you build, I build, it isn't like at one moment either of us sign a certificate of saying, or like sign the contract or say, okay, now I'll bloodbath. No. So acting as though there's a choice between the two is irrelevant. I'm not asking you to stay over having a bloodbath. I'm asking you, over walking away. I'm not asking you to have a bloodbath over walking away. I'm asking you to work it out over prolonging it and making it bigger.
Right, but
at least that's how I see it.
Indeed. But if things get heated,
yeah,
and it looks like it's going somewhere nasty, and the name calling begins, and all that stuff, I've got to get away. Because I don't want to be ever in a situation again like that. Never.
Me too. Me too.
Never. So
Me too.
that's don't freak out if we do have a fight and I walk away.
I'm not going to do that. I'm asking you to stay when you feel you are also in the interest of working it out.
I think it's a good idea for us to take a moment or two, take some time. Take some time to think by ourselves without being, barraged by each other's fucking bullshit whatevers. Let's take a break from it, and then come back, try and be calm, and walk through the thing. But I'm not gonna stand and fight with you. I will not. You can call me a coward.
I don't
You can
want
call
that.
me anything you want. All those names, do it. But I will not do it again.
Please stop asking. I mean, please, can you stop for the sake of this conversation?
No, I'm just saying I won't do it again. That's all. Okay, great. Then let's take our space and let's not do this anymore because I'm really getting frustrated. And I'm really, really, really sick of this argument.
Stop. I'm sorry.
Okay? So let me go and you go and I'll speak to you in a couple hours. Okay? Okay?
Stop. Okay.
Why are you saying stop?
Because
May
you're
I
so-
go?
Please, it causes me so much stress when you leave, when you walk away from me with that. It's like you don't understand how much worse you're making this.
I can't believe this.
Please, you're making it worse for me.
Okay, I'm sorry for you.
Please, I'm only trying to tell you so that you know you're causing me immense stress right now when you walk away like that. There's no reason to be mad.
Well, then say goodbye. I haven't walked away. You're not saying goodbye. You won't let me fucking leave. Let me
Oh my
leave.
God. Stop rushing me! Stop pushing me in the corner and then poking me with a stick and then saying, why aren't you saying the words you want me to say? Stop poking me! Stop rushing me! Stop throwing me against the wall and going, what? You don't like that wall? You don't like the fucking wall? Stop pushing me!
Remember? I'm not pushing you. I'm not rushing you. I said, I need space. I don't want this conversation anymore right now. I need space. And I will take my space. Whether you like it or not, I will take it. And you will take your space. But if you keep halting
I'm not doing anything
this
to you.
and continuing
I'm
with
not
the rhetoric,
continuing it. I'm begging you to stop.
I don't. Okay, stop. I'm stopped. Stop. Now I have to go. Okay? So we will speak to each other in a couple of hours. Okay? I hope you have some kind of revelation that makes you feel better. You know? I hope I do too. But we'll just see when I get home. We'll just talk, or we won't talk, or we'll finish this, or we won't finish it. But this is not love. This is not happiness. This is not. This is.
Please stop doing this. Please, it causes so much fucking stress. I'm gonna die at this age. I'm gonna fucking die. You're causing me so much stress. Please stop. Please, I feel like I have a heart attack almost every day. Please stop. Please
what are you
stop
doing? Why-
doing it. Please stop. He's so fucking mean.
Why
You're
are
a
you
fucking
with me?
bully. Stop. Please stop. I've been begging you not to fight. I just said, can we please have a normal argument? Just even a normal conversation, fucking normal argument. And for the last hour, I've been begging you to please just leave it at that. Let's just go on with our night. I would have been able to come in with you. We would have been able to let it go in a few minutes. It would have been fine. It would just, if we allowed ourselves to have fucking normal arguments. Please, you're killing me with this. You're killing me. You're fucking killing me. Fuck.
Sean, could you, please, I want you to just go. I want you to take your medicine or whatever. I'm sorry that I've upset you.
Yeah,
this
I think.
much.
Thank you, Sean. I'm ready to go. Thank you so much.
I'm really.
Mr. Depp, in the beginning, well, first of all, do you know where you are when you're having this discussion with Ms. Heard?
The only, excuse me, the only clue that I have is that Sean is being called. I'd called Sean and said to drive her home, or I believe it was probably at Sweetser, so then she could drive back. He would drive her back to downtown Penthouse 3 with she didn't seem in any shape to drive to me.
And earlier in the clip, there was a reference to a bloodbath. What does that mean in the context of that conversation?
I don't know. Again, it seems like some word that was, it became
Objection,
part
Your
of
Honor.
it.
He said he doesn't know.
All right, I'll sustain objection. Next question.
Mr. Depp, at the end of the day on Thursday, Mr. Rottenborn played an audio recording for you where you were heard saying you were going to hurt yourself. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And I'm not going to play that audio recording again. It seemed upsetting to you, but I do want to ask you a couple questions about that, okay?
Sure.
Could you please tell the jury when that recording is from?
That recording is from July of 2016. This was a few months after the restraining order had been put on me. I had been on tour through Europe, and then coming through the States, I got messages from Christian Carino, who was both of our former agent, saying that Ms. Heard wanted to meet with me in San Francisco because we had one of our last dates on the tour was San Francisco. And I was confused as to why Ms. Heard wanted to meet with me, especially since I was under a court order not to come within, I don't know, 100, 200 feet or something of her. So at first I said...
Objection, Your Honor. The question was simply, do you remember when that was from? It's beyond scope.
Okay. So where were you when that recording was taken?
That was in San Francisco at a hotel room. So we went to a hotel room so that we could finish the discussion that she wanted to have with me.
And how did that discussion go?
Not particularly well. I was quite confused as to why I had been summoned to her at that point, since all the news was just about the fact that I had allegedly done all these horrible things to her, and so I was talked into going there. I went and met with her in hopes that she would retract her lies that the world was now had been fed, and in no way was she ready to do that, and I couldn't understand why I was there. Everything had been taken from me. My children couldn't escape the fact that all this had gone down. So
Objection,
I was.
Your Honor. The question was, how did the discussion go? And he's talking about his children. It's way beyond the scope.
Just talking.
Sir, just wait for the objection.
I think he's describing the context around that conversation.
All right.
It's way beyond the scope of the
All
question.
right, I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Mr. Depp, why were you threatening to hurt yourself in that audio recording?
In fact, I wasn't threatening to hurt myself. I thought that Ms. Heard had brought me to San Francisco. At that point, it was clear she was under false pretenses. I don't know what she was after. So I had a knife in my pocket, and I just took the knife out and I said, "Here, cut me." That's what you want to do. Ultimately, you've taken everything. You want my blood? Take it. Have my blood. And then she said, no. And then I said, look, if you're not going to take it, you want it, I know you want it, that's all I've got left, take it. If she wasn't going to do it, I would have done it. Because that's psychologically, emotionally where I was. I was at the end. I was broken. Not only had I had to deal with everything from coming in from, arrows from all over the world, but now I don't know what she was trying to do. So I just thought the only answer is here. Cut me. Take my blood. That's all I've got left to give you. Obviously, there was no threat to Ms. Heard with that knife. It was about spilling my blood, because I thought that's what the only thing she didn't have at that point. And I was broken and really just at the end. I couldn't take it anymore. I thought everybody, I know that that's his job, but that was quite a cruel...
Objection, Your Honor, we're well beyond the
No,
scope.
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Finally, I'd like to play a portion from Plaintiff's Exhibit 357, specifically the portions at 18 minutes, 43 seconds through 21 minutes, 46 seconds.
357, is that correct?
357, yes.
All right, so is this going to be another one where it's going to be an A, or is this going to be all that's going to be offered?
Why don't we go with A to
We're
be
going
safe?
with A. Okay, could you give me the numbers again, just so I have them for the record? What are you going to play?
It is 357, beginning at 18 minutes, 43 seconds through 21 minutes, 46 seconds.
All right, any objection to 357A?
No, Your Honor.
All right, 357A in evidence.
It's been going on too long, Amber. Maybe we just gotta stop this. Just gotta stop it.
I don't know how to get my reputation back.
We write a letter together.
Does that mean?
Saying that we're going to take this out of the public eye, saying that we're going to try and work this out on our own, saying that the media has created such a fucking hateful storm that it's sickening, that we love each other, and that we want to make sure each other is okay. Have we had fights in the past? Have we had this or whatever? Fuck it, they already know all that shit. Don't matter. Here's the deal.
No, it matters. It makes. You have no idea. Every ounce of my credibility has been taken from. And done so in a dishonest way.
Amber, the abuse thing is we've got to deal with that. Yeah. We got to deal with that,
I don't have
Amber.
any way of my credit is my credibility. I don't.
And why did you put that out there?
I did not. You forced me. Your team forced me to by going on the offense.
I didn't force you to.
From the very beginning. I promise. Look up the timeline to these things. Everything is. Forget it. Forget it. You don't believe what I say. You don't believe what I say. But I did not choose this. Every step of the way has been an offense.
I did not put this anywhere. I didn't. Let me talk to the fucking team.
I did not call the cops. I need them to state.
IO called the
I did
cops.
not call the cops.
You told IO to call the cops.
I did not call the cops, and I did not give them any statement when they came. I've been trying to protect you.
You told IO to call the cops.
While it was happening?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, because the last time that it got crazy between us, I really did think I was going to lose my life, and I thought you would do it on accident. And I told you that. I said, oh my God, I thought the first time.
Amber, I lost a fucking finger, man. Come on. I had a jar of mineral spirits thrown at my nose.
You can please tell people that it was a fair fight and see what the jury and judge think. Tell the world, Johnny. Tell them, Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp, man, I'm a victim too of domestic violence, and
Yes.
it's a fair fight. And see how many people believe or side with you.
It doesn't matter if it's a fair fight. My ass.
Exactly, because you're.
Mr. Depp, when did you have the conversation reflected in this recording with Ms. Heard?
I don't recall exactly when it was.
What's your best estimate?
My best estimate is that it was quite a while before the meeting in San Francisco in July. Excuse me.
How far after May 21st, 2016 do you think that conversation was?
Objection, calls for speculation. Sorry, he said he doesn't remember when it was.
I'm asking for his best estimate.
I'll allow it if you can answer it this way.
Sorry, could you ask it again? I was distracted.
How long after May 21st, 2016 do you believe that conversation took place?
I would say that it was not too far, maybe a couple of months. It was far enough to where the world media was already bombarding me. So it was an attempt to try to make all the.
Objection, Your Honor, beyond scope.
All right, I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
What are you referring to when you said you and Ms. Heard will write a letter together?
I was trying to make a peaceful settlement.
And what are you referring to when you say you lost a finger?
A very large bottle of vodka severing my middle finger in Australia.
And what were you referring to when you said a can of mineral spirits was thrown at your nose?
One of the arguments on the island where Miss Heard had been howling at me with some argument, and she picked up a can of mineral spirits about yay big and just heaved it at me, and it struck me on the bridge of the nose and right there, the forehead.
And what did you say in response when Miss Heard said, "Tell the world, Johnny, tell them Johnny Depp, Johnny Depp, a man, I'm a victim too of domestic violence"?
I said, yes, I am.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
All right. Sir, you can have a seat next to your attorney, please.
Thank
Okay,
you.
All right, your next witness. Ben King. Somebody going to go get Mr. King? You can,
Should I do away with these?
you can take it with you. Or you just leave it. You can leave it there.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
All right, and good afternoon, Mr. King.
Good afternoon.
Would you please state your full name for the record?
Ben King,
And Mr. King, can you briefly tell us where you're from?
London, central London.
And can you tell us a little bit about your background? What's your occupation?
I'm a house manager, personal assistant presently with an individual who also lives in central London.
Okay. Can you lean into the microphone a little bit
Yeah,
more? I know
sure.
it's a-
Sorry, here we go.
now, did you say you're a house manager?
That's right, personal assistant, house manager.
And can you just tell those of us in the courtroom who aren't familiar, what does that mean?
I work presently for a gentleman who's in the entertainment industry, and I manage his property, a large apartment in central London, take care of the daily needs and running of that, oversight of the staff, and travelling with him when needed and things like that.
And how long have you been in this occupation?
Since about 1991, I started in private service, if you like, in house management, in butlering, in all that stuff.
Typically based around London?
Correct. I started work in London. It was my first big job at Buckingham Palace, funnily enough, for 4 years, and then I continued in different positions, full-time and self-employed, freelance capacity for many years as well.
Just generally, can you tell us, and without getting into any specifics, but what type of people would you say you typically provide these services for?
Generally high net worth people, individuals or families, residencies.
Okay. Are you familiar with the plaintiff in this case, Johnny Depp?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
And how are you familiar with Mr. Depp?
I met and worked for Mr. Depp in 2014. And subsequently a couple of times after that.
Okay, and can you briefly just explain to the jury how it came to be that you were working for Mr. Depp?
Sure. Yes, at that point I was working in a freelance, self-employed capacity. A lot of my jobs came through friends of friends, personal recommendations, etc. I was asked by a friend of a friend on this occasion, would I be available, to go and manage a property where Mr. Depp was going to be staying for about a month in central London. Was I available? Would I be willing to do it? And I was available at that point, and so I said, yes, yeah, absolutely.
And just to make sure we're on the same page, what time frame are we talking about here?
That was August 2014.
Okay. And did you in fact end up working for Mr. Depp in that time frame?
I did, yes.
Now, just to clarify, were you employed by Mr. Depp?
No.
So who was your employer?
I was paid through a large hotel which was close by to the house, who also, they provided the housekeeper who was working with us for that month as well. So I was paid through them.
Okay. Can you just generally explain to us what kind of work you were doing for Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard in this time frame?
Sure, yeah, it was the setup of the house, basically. Setting up the house initially, which meant ahead of the principals arriving, which meant making sure all the linens were in place for the bedrooms. It was a sizable property, and just organizing everything ahead of their arrival. Once they arrived, it was the management of that property, the oversight of it, and the day-to-day running, some service, like butler service, and managing the housekeeper day-to-day through that whole month.
And when you refer to the principals, who are you referring to?
Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard.
Where exactly were you working in London at this point? Just kind of describe for us the house, I guess.
This was in Mayfair. It was a large townhouse in an old building, but it was very contemporary inside, modern, furnished, very modern sort of way. Quite spacious, maybe 4 or 5 bedrooms, I think. A small indoor pool, a small gym, quite an open plan layout throughout the house.
And how long were they there?
For the month, essentially, yes.
Okay. Can you tell us just generally what hours you would typically work in a day while you were working for them in London in this time frame?
Yeah, approximately. It depended on what was going on, but I mean, generally 7 or 8 in the morning till 7 or 8 in the evening. Typically, there was a chef employed as well. Russell, brilliant chef. He tended to stay after I left in the evening. He would cook dinner, serve dinner, and thankfully cleaned up after dinner. So I could leave sort of early to mid-evening, usually most days. Unless we had guests, unless there were guests or other things going on.
During your time managing the house for Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard in 2014, did you have occasion to observe the interactions between Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
How often?
Most daily, I would say. Pretty much most days through that period.
And did you yourself interact with Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard?
Yes, also daily, I would say.
Which of them would you say, or did you see one of them more often than the other?
Ms. Heard was there. Mr. Depp was, the reason I think they rented the house was because Mr. Depp was working at a studio. I think it was Mordecai, the movie. So Ms. Heard was there at the house most of the days. Mr. Depp often went to work and came back later on in that evening, that day.
How would you generally describe the interactions that you observed between Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard?
Initially, very sort of loving towards each other, you know, nice couple. Mr. Depp was always a gentleman and keen to make sure Miss Heard was taken care of, anything she needed, often pour a glass of wine for her. Just nice, you know, pleasant.
How about your own interactions with the couple? How did you get along with them both?
I think very well. They were really open to me, and I mean, my background's quite formal, so it was quite an informal setting. I was able to ask questions to either of them. Ms. Heard especially, it was really helpful to get information about what time they wanted dinner, you know, basic stuff like that, or anything. It was good interaction all the time with the both of them.
Okay. Now you mentioned wine. Can you tell us to what extent did you observe either of them consume alcohol over the course of these 4 weeks?
Sure. When I started that job, or when I was taking that job on, I was told, I think by Mr. Depp's assistant, that he was. Oh, sorry.
Can you answer without telling what you were told?
I was made aware that Mr. Depp was.
Could you put your microphone on?
Okay.
Same objection. He's explaining what he was been told. Now he just said I was informed.
I don't think it's offered for the truth, Your Honor. I think it's just offered to explain his own behavior towards the couple.
No, can we approach?
Okay.
All right, so Mr. King, moving past the conversation, let's not touch on that. But just in general, can you describe the alcohol consumption that you personally observed and what you personally witnessed?
Sure. I didn't see Mr. Depp consume any alcohol during that time in London. There was a large consignment of wine that had been delivered to the house at the start of the visit, many cases that I had to store, had to find a place to store. And generally speaking, on a day-to-day, about 1 or 2 bottles of red wine were consumed per day. I think that's fair to say.
Did you ever observe Mr. Depp drink any of the wine?
No, I didn't.
Did you ever observe Ms. Heard drink any of the wine?
Yes, I did.
Regularly?
Daily.
Now, I think you already testified that you observed interactions with Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard, and you generally found them to be friendly. Is that fair?
Very much so, yes.
Were there any exceptions to that?
Towards me?
I'll rephrase. Okay. Did you ever observe any arguments between the two?
Yes, I did.
I'll allow it, that's fine, good.
You can answer.
Oh, yes, I did, yeah.
Okay, and can you describe for us the arguments that you observed?
I can describe 2 of them, certainly. There were a few arguments on that during that month.
Well, let's just start with those 2.
Okay. The first one I remember was an evening. Actually, they were both the ones I recall were, and I was close to, were evenings. This first particular evening, the couple were due to go out for dinner, I guess. I know the car was waiting in the little courtyard there, ready for them to go, and security were waiting to take them. I was waiting to see them out into the car. I was at the foot of on the ground floor level, to wait to see them out, essentially. And the first thing I heard was Miss Heard shouting upstairs in the master suite where they were getting ready to leave. I heard her shout something, I don't recall what. I was in the vicinity, I wasn't really there to listen. And I heard footsteps, loud footsteps, sort of going across. There's like a corridor, if you like, at the top of those stairs that went around the master suite. Loud footsteps, and then more footsteps following, more shouting. And that sort of went on for some time. I mean, I knew that what time they needed to leave. I don't recall what time that was, but I knew they were supposed to have left already. And it went on for a bit.
Do you recall how that first fight or argument resolved?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I know that they left eventually, albeit late. I don't know how it really resolved, because I sort of made myself busy, but not going too far away from the door to make sure I saw them out.
All right, and then what about the second argument that you mentioned?
Second one, I was pretty much in the same vicinity, the same room on the ground floor. Again, the couple were in the TV room, I think, which was off the main sitting room, early evening, and I was going about my early evening duties, replenishing drinks close by, lighting the fire, lighting candles, whatever it might have been. I was close enough to hear Miss Heard say, "Why did you take your hand away from me, Johnny? Don't you love me anymore?" Like, not in a playful way, I might add. And I think he replied, "Of course I do, don't be silly. Of course I do." And it kind of launched from that point. And at one point, Mr. Depp got up and went to the bathroom or went upstairs, and I was sort of scuttling around out of the way because I wasn't there listening. I was just there doing my stuff in and around them. Yeah, it was a strange, sort of banal way to start an argument. But
how would you describe Miss Heard's tone when she said, "Why did you take your hand away, Johnny?"
Accusatory, spoilt teenage child, maybe. Is that fair? Pretty, not playfully, let's put it that way, more angrily.
Over the course of the 4 weeks in August and September 2014, when you were working with Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard in London,
Yes.
Did you ever observe any physical violence of any kind between the two of them?
No, I didn't.
Did you ever observe any injuries on either one of them?
No, neither of them.
Okay. After those 4 weeks, did you ever work for Mr. Depp or Ms. Heard again?
I did. A couple of occasions. The following year was the first one, the following spring.
Okay, and where was that?
In Australia.
And what is it? Was it unusual for you to be in Australia?
In Australia, maybe, but not unusual for me to travel for clients for my assignments to wherever it was needed.
Okay. How exactly did it come about that you were in Australia with Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard?
Towards the end of the London visit, Mr. Depp had kindly said, thanks so much for looking after us. We really like you. Maybe if you're free next year and we can arrange it, we can make it happen. Perhaps you'll be able to come to Australia with us. I've got to film Pirates 5. So I said, great, I'd love to. Obviously, I was freelance at the time, so it was going to be about 4 months' work. I think it was billed as. So I thought, yes, I wouldn't mind some of that. Thank you very much.
And where in Australia were you staying?
It was the Gold Coast, yeah, but sort of Brisbane area. Brisbane was the main airport, so it's about an hour's drive south of Brisbane.
Okay. And do you recall when you arrived?
I arrived on February the 4th. I know I flew on that day.
Okay. How did your job responsibilities in Australia compare to your job responsibilities in London?
Much the same, just on a bigger scale. The house was larger. There was a bit more setup to do, but essentially the same oversight of the house, responsible for it during the whole gig.
And were you employed by Mr. Depp or Ms. Heard?
No.
Who were you employed by?
Essentially by Disney, the production company affiliated with Disney, who were making the movie. I think their name was Herschel, was the production company.
Okay. Now, I think you said you arrived in Australia on February 4th, 2015?
Correct.
Do I have that right?
Yes.
Okay. How about Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard? When did they arrive?
The setup for us was about a few weeks. I think they arrived towards the end of February 2015.
And between your arrival and their arrival, what had you been doing?
Just setting up the house. I lived on site. There was a guest house on site, a 2-bedroom, single-story guest house that I stayed in for those first couple of weeks, setting up the house and just getting everything ready during that time. And then I moved out to apartments, which we all had. A lot of the crew, the chef had an apartment. We all had apartments about a 30-minute drive south of the house.
Okay. And so we're talking about this house in Australia. So
Yes.
Can you kind of describe that property to us?
Yes, it was a large house on a few acres of land. A 3-story house, 5 bedrooms, with 2 or 3 buildings within the grounds as well. A good-sized house, beautiful location.
How many entrances would you say it had?
Entrances, many. Many certainly on the lower ground level out to the garden. On the first or on the main floor level, there was many entrances. Every room in that house had a balcony at least. Every room on the lower ground floor had a sliding door or a door out. The utility room, the garage, the gym, everything. Obviously the front door. Many. On the main level, the large glass sliding doors out to the pool area, which had a gazebo and steps down to the ground.
Okay, and once Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard arrived to stay at this house, was anybody else staying in the house?
Staying in the house, no.
Was anybody else staying on the grounds?
On the property, yes. There was a couple there, caretaking couple, Sean and his wife, Sandra, who worked for the owner of the house. They lived on site essentially all the time. They were there pretty much throughout. And their house was, a couple of 100 yards away from the main house. And Yes, security were there also.
All right, sticking with the caretaker just briefly, about how long would you estimate it would take to walk from the main house to the caretaker's house?
Under 5 minutes. I mean, yeah, no more than 5 minutes.
Okay. And then you mentioned security. What was the security setup?
Security was set up by Jerry Judge. They were employed, they stayed in the grounds for the duration. They didn't come into the house. They had a little sort of shack round by the perimeter wall where they would start their patrols from, walk around the grounds, around the exterior of the house at certain times of the day, write their reports and go back and stay in their shack.
And how many security guards would be on site at any particular time?
I think one in the day and one in the night, so they did sort of 12 hours about, as I remember it.
But it was 24/7?
Yes, definitely.
Do you know whether those were local employees or were they regularly employed?
I believe they were Australian, yes.
Okay. Now, I think you said you were not on the property 24/7, right? You had an apartment elsewhere?
Correct, yeah. I kept the same hours as I did in London, essentially. Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, not quite, but 7, 8 a.m. till evening, till everything was set up and I could leave.
Okay. And did you have an opportunity when you were in Australia to observe Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard's interactions with each other?
Yes, of course.
And how would you describe them?
Initially very good, like in London. It seemed very pleasant towards each other.
Did you observe any arguments?
Yes. I had several.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yes. A similar pattern, it seemed, to London arguments. One in particular was very similar to the second one in London. Started in the TV room, funnily enough. Loud voices, and Mr. Depp leaving the room, shutting the door, going to another room to play his guitar or, to a bathroom, whatever. And Miss Heard closely following and opening the door or certainly rapping on the door. It seemed to continue.
Give us an estimate about how many arguments you think you observed in this time frame, approximately?
Several. I mean, we were there for several months, so certainly many more than in London.
Did you observe any alcohol consumption in Australia by either of them?
Yes, again, Ms. Heard, I was, again, part of my responsibilities was to provision the house and have everything set up for that. So I regularly brought red wine for Miss Heard, which she consumed, the same amount as in London, I think.
And what amount is that?
Generally speaking, 1 or 2 bottles a day.
Okay. Did you ever observe Mr. Depp start any arguments with Ms. Heard?
No.
Oh, sorry, hold on, objection.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, could you put your mic, there we go.
Leading, objection leading.
I'll sustain this to leading if you want.
Okay, we can move on.
New question? Okay.
Do you remember anything about Friday, March 6th, 2015?
It was essentially a normal Friday, if you like. End of the week. Yay. Nothing extraordinary about that day.
Did you come into work that day?
Yes. Yeah, I was there.
Okay. Do you recall about what time you would have left the house on that date?
I remember taking a photo of the beautiful sunset over the pool. The sun would set over the pool and the creek. I took a photo of that around early evening, so 6:37. I would think I wouldn't have left much later than that.
Was Mr. Depp there when you left?
I don't think so. I think Mr. Depp was at the studio still on that day. I can't remember sort of seeing him to say goodbye. Have a good weekend.
How about Ms. Heard? Do you recall if she was there when you left?
Yes, she was.
Okay. Did anything unusual happen that weekend?
Yeah, I would say something pretty unusual happened.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I can.
Foundation.
All right, foundation. You want to lay a foundation?
At some point, did you become aware that something had happened between
Yes.
Mr. Depp and Ms.
To the
Heard?
extent it calls for hearsay.
All right. I'll sustain that objection.
All right, turning to the following Sunday.
Ms. Williams, how much more do you have? Because it's time for our afternoon break. If
I think we can. I have a little bit more, Your Honor, so I think maybe this would be a good time for a break.
All right, let's go ahead and take our afternoon 15-minute break, ladies and gentlemen. Again, do not talk to anybody about the case and don't do any outside research, okay? You're excused, thank you.